Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley, and you're listening to Knightline Extra only on the Knightline Sports Network. All right, hello again from the 1148 studios. This is Andrew Phegley from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network, winners of the Florida BlogCon's favorite podcast of the year at their 8th annual awards. Thank you very much, people, for voting us. Night Nation, really appreciate it. All right, UCF is coming off of a bye. The Knights are 7-0, winners of 20 straight. As for the polls, UCF is 9th in the Coaches Poll and 9th in the AP Poll, but it is Tuesday night as I record this, and only one that matters now is the College Football Playoff Poll, and UCF checks in at number 12, jumped by number 11, 6-2 Florida. That's the one that I'm upset with, and you will hear much more about this later on. I talk with the Temple Insider, and I talk with Nick Patti about that, especially, both of those things. This week, the Knights are back home for a Thursday night tilt with Temple. It's a battle for number 1 in the AAC's Eastern Division. Will quarterback Mackenzie Milton play after watching from the sidelines in UCF's 37-10 win at ECU? Knights head coach Josh Heupel has been very tight-lipped, saying that it would only be a game-time decision on KZ, so we'll have to find out. You'll also hear from a Temple insider. Trylko hops on the AAC's conference call to talk with Owls head coach Jeff Collins, and former UCF quarterback Nick Patti goes inside the red zone. Here we go.
5 questions with an insider, getting to know this week's opponent.
All right, time to learn more about the 5-3 Owls. Let's turn to Mike McGuigan with Temple Sports Daily. Mike joins us on the Knightline hotline. Mike, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Thank you very much for joining us. Just got a couple of questions for you, and then I'm sure we might get into a little bit more of a discussion than that. So the Owls have had quite an interesting season, 5-3 overall, 4-0 in the American. Losses to Villanova, Buffalo, and Boston College. However, Temple has impressive victories over Maryland and Cincinnati. Why have the Owls turned this around after an 0-2 start?
It's kind of a loaded question, but the most simple answer I can give is Anthony Russo, redshirt sophomore quarterback out of Archbishop Wood High School, local product. He was a Trent Dilfer Elite 11 QB. He was being recruited by LSU heavily. Was near to sign with Rutgers before Matt Rule left. He wanted to stay local. Temple had started to have success under Matt Rule, and he was definitely the biggest QB recruit in my lifetime of following the Owls that they've gotten. And for whatever reason, there's some inside stuff. He was not the starter last year. I thought he would have started as a redshirt freshman. They went to Frank Newtile, who won us a bowl game last year, redshirt senior. He was very sloppy to start the year. They made the change after the 0-2 start, and they just looked more confident with Russo under center. And so really it's been Russo. It's been a multitude of things. The defense has gotten much better as the year has gone on. The defense right now is 4th in the country in yards allowed per play, and they're behind, I believe, Clemson, Michigan, and Notre Dame. So it's pretty good company to be in. So I'd say the progression of the defense as a unit, the linebacking core in particular, they were all sophomores last year, and they grew together as juniors this year. And they have a couple pro players on that defense, especially at the defensive backfield position and on the D-line. So the defense and then the ability of having Anthony Russo opening up the air game with his arm. And when Raquel Armstead, who's a potential NFL running back on the field when he's healthy, at least, it makes Temple a dynamic offense. And combating that, or to compare that with the defense that you have on the other side when they're on their game, they're quite a tough opponent to play. Just for objectively speaking, from somebody that watches them, even taking my fan hat off.
It's all good. We're definitely fans. Tell us more about the offense, in particular. Who are sophomore quarterback Anthony Russo's favorite targets?
Anthony Russo likes to share the ball. Anthony, you look at this team, and if you were just, say, a UCF fan that more focus is on UCF, but I don't. And really quick, shout out to UCF Twitter Mafia, everybody on UCF Twitter. I've got nothing but love and respect for that fan base. They're probably the most intelligent fan base I've dealt with on Twitter as far as knowing their opponent. You guys, for the most part, don't just follow, and I'm sorry to sidebar this, but you guys don't really just follow your team or just even this conference you're following or the college football playoff chase that you should be in. You're following a 5-3 Temple team, and you're not just looking at the record and saying, okay, well, this is going to be a cakewalk. So really quick, I have to just shout out UCF for that. But to Russo, his favorite targets, right now he's starting to have a real good connection with true sophomore Brandon Mack. He was a guy I had on my watch list going into spring camp. He had a great camp. And he's come out this year, and he was the leading receiver up until maybe a week or two ago on this team. Mack right now has 29 catches on the year for 316 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's averaging almost 11 yards per catch. Ventel Bryant, though, is our big gun. He's a redshirt senior. He's already graduated, actually. He's a graduate senior. Ventel has broken every freshman record as a freshman the Temple receiver has ever had. And Temple sent some wide receivers to the NFL. Rod Streeter and Robbie Anderson come to mind. But Ventel is finally finding his stride with Russo. He has 29 catches, 406 yards, and he's averaging 14 a catch, including the game-winning touchdown at Navy. Is his only touchdown of the year. But Ventel has an NFL wide-out body. So those guys on the outside are very difficult. And then you have guys like Randall Jones. Randall Jones, I'd say, is as good as Mack or Bryant. He's a little bit different style. He's a big play wideout. He's got 16 grabs on the year for 250 yards. He's averaging 15.5 a catch, and he has 3 TDs just like he has 3 TDs as well. And then there's a slew of guys that he gets the ball to. Sean Ryan, he's a true freshman out of New York. He has a touchdown catch on the year. Broderick Yancey, who's probable, but I expect him to play. And Freddie Johnson, who missed last game for Temple due to a personal issue, but he will be back on the field as well. So Temple has a lot of guys they spread the ball out to at the receiver position. But the 3 I would remember, Ventel Bryant, Brandon Mack, and Randall Jones Jr. Those are the 3 main targets.
Speaking of the college football playoff poll, and it just came out as we were talking here.
I didn't even get to see it yet.
Yeah, so UCF comes in at number 12. Whatever. It's
who is that? Can you tell me the 3 teams? I had UCF at 6 in my personal college football playoff.
Yeah, I didn't see the rest of it, but Florida 7-2 was above us at 11, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw a funny meme from somebody on UCF Twitter, and it said the most broken thing in college football was the BCS system, and then it says college football playoff committee, hold my beer. You know those memes.
Yeah,
and it is extremely broken. My hope this year is, regardless of what happens Thursday night, if you guys beat us, obviously I'm going to be cheering for you guys to win out and make your case again for the playoffs. And I hate to say it, you guys could beat us by 6 scores. You could beat Houston in the championship by 7 scores. They're not going to put you in the playoff.
Oh, yeah, we know that. It is what it is. We've come to terms with that, I think. It's a completely broken system. And what I like to say, and I've said it a bunch of times, my people that are listening will know that I say this all the time, it's a cartel. It's an absolute cartel.
Yes.
ESPN and this committee. It's ridiculous. I don't think that they watch football, to be honest with you. I don't think they've watched one game of any of these teams that they're voting on.
I actually had I don't usually get into Twitter stats with people, but I actually was sticking up for UCF. For UCF, and a West Virginia fan was just saying we would beat UCF by 5 scores, and I just kind of made a smart remark, and I said, "K Pumpkin," and so he was like, coming at me because Temple has a history with West Virginia. Temple used to be in the Big East, and he was like, you're just salty. You guys got. I was like 5 when we were in the Big East, so he's like, you guys just got kicked out of the Big East, and you're salty, and now you got as low as you can get, the American. And I'm saying, you really must not pay attention to college football because this conference is consistently putting 3 to 4 top 25 teams in at a time over the past 4 seasons, and we're 3-0 in the New Year's Day 6 bowl games. So anybody that's a college football fan, if they don't realize that the American is by far the superior Group 5 conference to every conference that's in the Group 5, and that's no shade to the Mountain West Conference USA. It's just the facts of the matter. You take the top 4 teams in this conference this year, specifically, in my opinion, the top 3 right now, which I'll say top 4. The top 4 teams to me this year right now, in order, my power rankings are UCF, Houston, Temple, and USF. And if you took those 4 teams and you threw them in insert big conference outside of the SEC, I think all those teams could compete and go 6-6 or to 7-5 or 8-4 and make a bowl in those conferences. I think the ACC is very weak this year, like the Big Ten. Maryland has been a pretty good team this year, especially with all the stuff that's happened with Durkin. Temple went in there and with a quarterback starting his first game in the FBS, and they struggled in the beginning of that game. They only gave up 1 defensive touchdown. The other touchdown was a pick 6. So defensively they shut them down to 1 touchdown, and Maryland's had a pretty solid year on offense. My point is that if you took the top half of this conference over the last 4 years and you put them in any conference other than the SEC, I think they're as good as most of the teams in those conferences. It's just a money thing, and it always is. It's a cartel. It's exactly what you called it. It is a cartel. I am definitely a fan of UCF just for the fact that Danny White won't let his case drop, and I hope he doesn't. I hope the fan base at UCF, you guys keep raising that heck, man. Keep making your case. If you beat us this week, I am going to be a UCF fan the rest of the year. I have been since last year.
Well, that's good. So, that's the way that it should be, honestly.
Yeah.
I hated to root for USF last week, but I did because I wanted them to be undefeated so we could beat them, later on when they're undefeated. I wanted Cincinnati to remain undefeated so we could beat them. It's not a shock. I said in our show earlier, or last week's show, I guess. It comes out on Monday mornings. I said that I thought we would be 15 or 16. Other people said we would be 12. We're 12. I'm whatever. I'm happy with that. We can still move up. There's going to be teams that are going to lose that are above us. Whatever.
But even in the AP, and I'm sorry to cut you off, and I had tweeted this out earlier in the week before the AP poll came out on Saturday night. I tweeted it late Saturday night. I said, I think and it took all of those top 25 L's and 2 top 10 L's for UCF just to move up 1 spot in the AP.
Well, the real person that has dropped the ball, I just want to get this in real quick, the person that has dropped the ball on this whole entire American thing, this Power 6 thing, is Mike Oresco. He's absolutely 100% dropped the ball. He should be fired or whatever.
I agree.
I don't know if he can be since he's the commissioner, but they need to get rid of him. The coaches need to write letters, the athletic directors, whatever it is, to get rid of him. He needs to go. We need somebody that'll get behind these teams and raise just as much hell, we can say hell, as Danny White has. Yeah, it's all good. It's my show. I can talk. I can say whatever I want to. So
okay. Well, I agree. Mike Oresco's done an awful job with our basketball conference as well. And the American actually has some pretty class. Temple is a basketball school. I'm sure you know John Chaney. We've kind of fell off the wagon with Fran Dunphy at Dunphy's last year, and not to switch topics, but the American has some rich basketball history in this conference. SMU has been pretty good the last few years. UCF is coming up. You guys are a contender. UConn's a classic program with national titles. Temple's been to a few Final Fours. Cincinnati's a classic basketball program. Houston's had great teams. So this is my thing about the American, especially in football. What this conference is, for the most part, is misfits that the other Power 5 conferences didn't want, and they'd all kind of banded together, but they don't have a commissioner that thought that they would have this much success.
Right.
And now that they have had this much success, it's like
nobody knows what to do.
There's a million excuses why. And I've said this, and I know if you guys beat, and you guys would have trashed UNC. I've seen plenty of talking heads. Well, that canceled game is going to keep UCF out of the college football playoff. No, it's not. Let's be real. UCF could have went down there and played UNC and wiped the field with them 49-6 or what have you, and you guys, there still would have been an excuse to keep UCF out if they go undefeated and win the American Conference. I think it's just to the point where Oresco is almost like he's like the puppet master.
He's
for
missing
these
in
Power
action.
5.
All right.
Yes.
Hey, so the top 6 just came out. You want to hear it? Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, LSU, Michigan, and Georgia.
Read that back.
Alabama, Clemson,
I agree with
Notre
that.
Dame, LSU. Georgia was 6, and I can't remember who 5 was because it just went up. Sorry, Michigan, number 5. So it's
I would have UCF in the top 6 over Michigan.
Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Notre Dame, Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma, Washington State, Kentucky, Ohio State, Florida, UCF. Top 12.
And that's funny because the Pac-12 I've called it the WAC-12 this year.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's all about money, and it's a shame because at the end of the day, it's the greatest game to me in the world is college football. It is. It's the greatest game. I used to be more of an NFL guy. Temple's. I've grown up in Philly. I've lived in Philly my entire life. I'm a 4-for-4 Philly diehard sports fan. But then I went to Temple, and we got good. And I loved Temple growing up. I went to the Vet to watch us when we were in the Big East. I saw Donovan McNabb's last regular season game against Temple, and they beat us like 56-7. At the Vet, there was probably 10 people there. My dad took me there because we didn't have money to go to the Eagles games. But my point is that this whole thing is just ran by money. I actually saw something out by Henry Giris on Twitter about team revenues. And let me just read this to you really quick. And here's just a glimpse of the top 10 right now. The AP, but this is before the playoff came out. So you have Alabama, 174 million plus. Clemson's 2 at 112 million plus. LSU, 147 million plus. Notre Dame, 134 million plus. Michigan, 185 million plus. Georgia, 157 mil plus. You have Washington State, which is a low ball team, actually, 64 million plus. Oklahoma, 155 million plus. Then UCF at 56 million plus, and Ohio State at 185 million plus.
Right.
So it says Alabama made almost as much money from media rights as UCF's entire athletic budget.
Yep.
So I retweeted it, and I said I retweeted that. To anybody that's interested, I said all about the dollar bill, y'all, to the NCAA, FBS, ABC, ESPN, NBC, and CBS. They never thought the misfit American Conference would be what it is. Let those Power 5 fans clown us. Fools don't even follow the AAC till they get beat by us.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, let's get back to talking about Temple real quick.
We could talk about this system all night. So
and you're saying all the right things. I mean, I totally 100% agree with what you're saying. I think that all AAC fans, all of the teams, everybody, the media that covers all these teams in the American, all of us need to stick together. We all need to stick together and make a bunch of noise. Just like, the UCF Twitter mafia, like we've been doing. The rest of you need to join in and help us out and try to do something about this because this is ridiculous.
Well, Temple's been trying. We're trying right now, and Temple, because we feel your pain because in 2015 we were 7-0 heading into the first release of the college football playoff.
Right.
And we had College Game Day come to Philly because we got Temple Twitter mafia basically made it happen. There was really no other game that week. Temple had crushed Penn State to open the season. They sacked Hackenberg 10 times. Temple kind of came out of nowhere. And they were 7-0 going into the Notre Dame game. And we made enough noise to get College Game Day to Philly, which was great. Unfortunately, we lost to Notre Dame within the last minute of the game. Will Fuller caught a touchdown with a little bit more than a minute to go.
Yeah.
We were winning that game. We lost it 24-20. I believe Notre Dame was 7th at the time. But my point is they ranked us like 23rd when that poll came out, that first college football playoff poll going into week 10. And I feel for you guys because I said even if we beat Notre Dame, they're going to keep us out. Even if we beat Notre Dame and win out, they're going to keep us out. And we didn't have the best end of that season, but We won the conference the following year in 2016 after the opposite, slow start and a hot finish. But my point is, it's just I feel your pain just because it would just the hassle it was to get game day to Philadelphia with no other really good games on the slate that week, and it was actually this weekend. It was going into Halloween. So it's ironic. It's almost 3 years ago to the day that game day was in Philadelphia for Temple versus Notre Dame. So I just want to say to the UCF fans out there, there's the Temple fans, we feel for you guys. We identify. And besides Thursday night, we're going to support you. So that's what I can speak on behalf of Temple Nation.
We appreciate that for sure. So getting back to Temple, though, how does the offensive line look? And you mentioned him earlier, what's the status of Armstead?
Armstead was released today by the Temple Twitter as an official captain for the game against UCF. He hasn't been a captain since week 1. Now, I don't know if I want to read too much into it because maybe he's still not going to play and it's his senior year and they want to throw him out there with his jersey on as a captain because it's a big game for us. But I expect Rock to play. Armstead played hurt the entire year last year. He barely missed a game. That's why he didn't have 1,000 yards. He was playing with injuries all year. That said, he's played 6 games this year. He's ran for 626 yards in those 6 games. He's averaging over 5 a carry. He's a strength and speed back. His sophomore year behind Jahad Thomas, who is still trying to hang around the NFL, he had 971 yards and almost 10 touchdowns. So the guy is a dynamic running back. It's a matter of him being healthy. But I think Rock's going to go. That's my speculation on it. I think it looks good for Temple that he's going to go, that the official Temple football Twitter today released his name as a captain for Thursday night. So I fully expect Raquel Armstead. I would say 98% sure Raquel is going to be out there.
Alrighty.
So, I'm not in the locker room, but the other guy that was a concern, Freddie Booth Lloyd, he's one of our best defensive tackles. I have confirmed source from him himself saying he's ready to go, and he will be playing on Thursday night. So those two are 2 key pieces for Temple's team. And I can tell you for sure from the man himself that Freddie Booth Lloyd will be playing. And I'd say about 98% chance that Raquel plays.
All right, good. Okay, so last question here. This is kind of a loaded question as well. You called me out on the loaded question earlier. Temple has won 3 straight games, including knocking off then number 20 Cincinnati in overtime. The Owls have momentum. Can they pull an upset on the road?
Can they? Yes, I think they can. Temple's been in some big spots. There's a lot of guys on this team that have played in big games. Like I said, Ventel Bryant is the best receiver we have, even though it hasn't really shown until Russo came in and they developed some chemistry. But he's a redshirt graduate senior. Even though he's the backup now, Frank Newtile, he's a redshirt senior. Raquel Armstead is a senior. These guys were here when we won the conference championship in 2016. They were here when we played Notre Dame in 2015 on College Game Day on ABC. They've been in big spots, these guys. Now, Russo hasn't. But Russo's first game was a big spot. He had to go on the road to a Maryland team, and a tough place to play. And he had to go to Boston College a couple weeks later, and they could have won that game. Really, they gave up 3 scores at the end of the first half, and they couldn't come back after that. They had to lead by 10 late in the second quarter, and BC had ripped off 3 straight scores to end that first half. But I do believe that Temple can go down and end the streak. I am leaning towards Temple right now for the first time all week. When I saw the line come out, I think the last I saw it was at 10. I think that is a Temple line. My personal prediction on the score is 38-36 Owls. But do I think that that's a lock? By any means, no. I think that Russo could make some rookie mistakes, and UCF could lump us up like they did last year. That's why they play the games. But do I think that Temple can go down there and win? Yes. How do I think they have to do that? I think they have to make sure that they can get they rotate about 8 guys on the defensive line. That's a big strength of theirs. They rotate 2 to 3 linebackers at a time, so 6 linebackers playing pretty much, and they rotate about 3 or 4 DBs, and they're deep on defense. So UCF's strength is that up-tempo offense. So if UCF can punch Temple in the mouth continuously and keep the guys on the field that are on the field tired, that bodes well for UCF. If Temple can kind of slow that offense down a little bit and, get their subs in, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. Like I said, UCF speed concerns me a bit. Temple hasn't really played a quarterback that can move like Milton, except for Ritter. But Ritter's a true freshman, and they gave Ritter hell. Ritter did not look like the guy he looked like in the first 6 games he played. And granted, since he didn't play competition near to the level of Temple, and that's why Temple was a 4-point favorite in that game, even though since he was unbeaten and we were 4-3. So yeah, I do think that the Owls can go do that. I think offensively, Russo, like I said, he has short-term memory. He threw 3 interceptions against Cincinnati. We looked dead in the water, and he constructed a 2-minute drill drive, tied the game, and threw the game-tying touchdown pass. 3rd and 10 at the 25, first possession in overtime. There was a 25-yard strike to the end zone, perfect ball. So for a young quarterback that was only making his 6th start, he was in a big spot there. I know it was a home game, but I think that for us to win, Russo has to just play as confidently as he's played, have that short-term memory, whether it's he had a great drive, let us down and threw a nice touchdown, or he threw an awful interception. He has to bounce back mentally from that. So to me, a lot of it's on Anthony Russo. The offensive line for Temple has been great. Matt Hennessy is 2nd in the nation in sacks allowed. He's a center for Temple. There's a lot of players on that offensive line that have grown in this system, and they've protected Russo. And like I said, that's why Armstead to them is so important. We don't really have depth at running back. So if Armstead is not playing, Temple becomes kind of a more one-dimensional team. You'll probably see Robert Travato listed as a starting running back, even though he won't get majority of the carries. He's our fullback. Yager Gardner is the backup. He only has 50 carries this year he's averaging about 3.1 a carry. They have a kid, Tyleek Rayner, who just he's only played in 1 or 2 FBS games. There's some kind of circumstance there. He reminds me of a young Adrian Killens Jr. There's a circumstance there why I don't know he's getting, especially with Armstead out, why he hasn't gotten on the field, I don't know. He had 3 carries for 25 yards, and 1 was a 12-yard touchdown against Navy, and he wasn't seen last week in action. So without Armstead, I'm saying. So I don't know what the story is there, but Armstead is a key cog for Temple to win this game because it makes them a tough team to play defensively. So yes, I think to load my answer, those are the things I think that Temple has to do to win. Like I said, can my prediction be way off? Absolutely. Temple can make some mistakes early, and just like they did last year, and UCF can get up big and not look back. That's the kind of team UCF is. So for Temple to win, Temple's had some issues this year, jumping off sides on 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts on defense. That's cost them some big plays. It's cost them a game or 2. And they can't do those kinds of things against UCF. You can't go into UCF and make mistakes like that and expect to win. They were able to do that against Navy. They were able to do that against Cincinnati and still come out on top. But it's a whole different ball game, whole different animal with UCF. It's a whole different level of talent and a whole different atmosphere than they've been in this season, in my opinion. So, but right now I am leaning towards the Owls 38-36, the way they play football. I think the bye week for them, and I'm sure just like UCF, they need to get Milton healthy. For Armstead, just as Milton is probably your most important offensive piece, outside of Russo, Armstead is ours. So it should be a fun one. I mean, I think this game, no matter what, is going to be covered. I think the spread is going to be covered. That's just the feel I have. I'm leaning right now. If I have to make a prediction, gun to the head. And I was leaning UCF for the last week and a half. I really was. And objectively, I think Temple is going to end the streak. I think Temple is going to win 38-36. I'm sorry, UCF Nation.
That's all good. That's why we have people from the other teams on here, just so we can get their opinions, and I ask. So, hey, tell everybody how they can reach you on social media.
Okay, so you can follow me on Twitter. That's where I do all my work. So it's at TU Owls, OWLS, Daily, BAILY. Please give me a follow. I don't just tweet about Temple sports. I tweet a lot about American Conference action, especially UCF with the run they've been on. So it's been a pleasure to be on the show with you guys today. Best of luck. It should be a fun one Thursday night. I can't wait. I haven't been this excited since 2016 for a game.
Are you going to be able to make it to Orlando?
I will not have too much going on in Philadelphia to get down, unfortunately. So,
alrighty. Well, I was going to buy you a beer if you did, so...
I
next
really
time.
appreciate it, but next time, absolutely, yeah. It should be a fun one. So we'll see what happens. But I think you're getting the best. I'll say this: I think Temple's the third best team in the conference right now, behind Houston, and you're definitely getting the two best teams in the East, in my opinion.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah. I think that this is a marquee game, and I'm glad that it's on a Thursday night. So, national TV, prime time, all that stuff. It couldn't be a better game for that to be on.
And it'll be better than the Thursday Night Football NFL game by far. So,
absolutely. All right, man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one, brother. Thank you.
All right, nice conversation there. I enjoyed that with Mike from Temple Sports Daily. Got into a little bit of the college football playoff stuff there. What I do want to talk to you about a little bit is our website. We just got a brand new website up. It's knightlinesports.com. It's a beautiful, beautiful website, and it was brought to you by the guys at Tasty Gravy. You're going to be hearing a lot more from them. They're going to be a new sponsor. They did a absolutely incredible job. It's beautiful. It works not only on your computer, but on your cell phone or your tablet or whatever. Please go check it out. Please go to it regularly. We also have t-shirts on there. The t-shirts have a couple options. You can either get them in white lettering on a black t-shirt or gold lettering on a black t-shirt. I have reduced the price of those t-shirts to make them a little easier to deal with. Free shipping on those as well, $15 and free shipping. I'll ship them anywhere in the United States. I cannot ship internationally, unfortunately. I know there's a lot of you that listen internationally, but if you can have them sent to a United States address, I will ship them for free wherever. So please support us by going and get the t-shirts. They're pretty cool. I make them myself. Each one might be a little bit individual. There's always something that kind of is a little bit different on each one, so that's kind of cool. Small, medium, large, and extra large are your choices there, and very much would appreciate if you guys would pick up a t-shirt and rep Knightline for all your friends and colleagues. Next up, we hear from Temple head coach Jeff Collins, and we're talking with former Knight Nick Patti when Knightline Extra continues in just a moment.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Post-Game Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Ever since I started Knightline, people have been asking me for advice. Usually, it's what team to bet on this week. The truth is, I don't know who's going to win, but if you think that you know, you gotta check out MyBookie. Remember, who you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting with. That's why I always tell people to bet with MyBookie. Trust me, guys, they're the best bet this season. They've been in business for years, they have great reviews online, and their mobile site is easy to use. Lay down some cash and win big today. They have in-game live betting, the most rewarding player perks in the business, and for you fantasy guys out there, you can even bet over-under on how many fantasy points a player is going to score each game. Join now and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. Use promo code NIGHT to activate the offer. You play, you win, you get paid. Visit MyBookie online today. All right, Trace Trylko was on the AAC's coaches conference call and asked Owls head coach Jeff Collins about preparing for Mackenzie Milton and Darryl Mack.
Give us your thoughts on how your open week went. You prepare to get back in action against UCF on Thursday, please.
Yeah, I had a good week, had some developmental practices, and obviously when you're putting in such a great team as UCF, trying to get a head start, obviously, helps trying to get the preparation begun a little earlier. Did a little recruiting, try to get some guys back healthy, but we understand what a great matchup we have coming up on Thursday night, and so excited about the opportunity to play such a great team.
We will now take our next question from Trace Trylko, the Knightline Sports Network. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Coach, with the uncertainty at quarterback for UCF, what did you see on film, and how are they different, Milton and Mack?
A little bit more quarterback run game that's designed. McKenzie, he does a good job of creating plays with his feet and, has a great improv factor. I mean, he's as dynamic of a player as there is in college football. But then Matt comes in and they did, some more designed quarterback runs with him. Another personnel package that they used where they had two true running backs in the backfield along with him to do some triple options, some power read type stuff that are designed quarterback runs. But both big-time players, with a complimentary cast surrounding them, that's as good as anybody in the country.
One more. Last time out against ECU, UCF's defense gave up a lot of yards but picked up 5 turnovers. How do you see your offense matching up against the Knights' defensive?
Yeah, I mean, they're really good. We've got a lot of respect for them. Randy Shannon, their defensive coordinator, and I worked together for the last 2 years. I was at the University of Florida, so I have a tremendous respect for him. What he's done over his career as a coordinator, what he's done over his career as a head coach. So I've got the utmost respect for him and the job that he does with that defense. And, they've got players all over the field. They can create takeaways, create tackles for loss, negative plays. They play very sound fundamentally. Coach Shannon does a really good job mixing up coverages, mixing up pressures. So we've got, a true healthy respect for not only their players that they have, but the personal knowledge I have of how well they coach on defense, adds to that respect level.
Thank you, Coach.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out The Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
Hey Night Nation, it's Adam from the Sons of UCF. Be sure to check out our show every Wednesday only on the Knightline Sports Network. Now, back to 2 guys who probably won't be Cow of the Week nominees, Andrew and Trace.
All right, getting you ready for UCF's game with Temple. We check in with former UCF quarterback Nick Patti in just a minute. This segment is brought to you by Scouted, the app where athletes of all ages get exposed, discovered, and recruited. Download for free on the Apple Store or Google Play and get discovered today. Welcome to Inside the Red Zone with Nick, the Wild Knight Patti. All right, Nick, welcome back. We don't have a game to talk about last week, so what we can talk about is what just came out. We're recording this on Tuesday night. The college football playoff rankings, the first one. UCF comes in at number 12. The biggest thing that I really don't like here is behind number 11, Florida at 6-2. You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's unsettling a little bit. I mean, I think we all know when these things come out in their inception, the first time of the year for this poll at least, you have a couple things you expect to happen, and obviously there's not a whole lot of arguments with the teams that are up there with their strength schedule and where they're at as teams and losses, wins, losses, whatever. A 2-loss Florida is a little frustrating to be up there, even though they show progress and all that. But I think that's your biggest argument with the team that just based on record, with us being undefeated, should just sort of be a shoo-in. For whatever your argument may be for that, I think as an undefeated team, you should have the opportunity to be ahead of any 2-loss team. You can make a lot of arguments for all the 1-loss teams. But you also have Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State up there. You could make an argument even for a Kentucky. They've had a good year and they've got some explosion going on right now in some of their games. But you could even make an argument for us to be put ahead of them at 7-1 and us being 7-0. A little bit, I think, goes into play of us having one less game too. And I said that at the beginning of the year when we did lose that North Carolina game, getting kind of taken off the schedule for now, or forever. It looks like canceled as opposed to rescheduled. But that could hurt us too in the eyes. That's just an excuse that they can give us that we have one less game to put in our resume. And so that kind of goes into the strength of schedule talk. Not only strength of schedule, but strength of how many games you've played. And so it's frustrating, no doubt about it. But at the same time, I think all that we can do as a program, this is kind of cliche, and I know we all want to argue the fact that all we can do as a program is keep winning. That's all we can do. That's the only argument that we have to put on paper is to keep winning games, and just the rest is out of our hands, obviously.
Yeah, well, one of the things that really bothers me, a couple of things. If I was a Notre Dame fan, I'd be really pissed off right now, actually,
absolutely.
Because 8-0 Notre Dame is behind LSU. Right. Which is a little crazy. A 7-1 LSU team is in front of Notre Dame.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Another team that really does not belong in this thing at all is 7-1 Washington State at number 8.
Yeah.
They don't belong in it at all. Who have they played?
For sure.
The only teams that they have played are Oregon and Stanford. That's it.
Right. Which Stanford's is subpar, you could say, this year.
Yeah.
Oregon's good and explosive, but Stanford's subpar. I mean, that's one I overlooked, but that's definitely one you could argue, shouldn't even be. I think should probably be in the top 15. But even then, you're stretching because you got West Virginia, Penn State, and I don't think they should be ahead of us. No doubt about it.
Yeah, Washington State has played Wyoming, San Jose State, EWU, whoever that is.
Eastern Washington.
Yes, they played USC, but they lost that game. That's their one loss. They played Utah, Oregon State,
another
Oregon.
Loss team.
Yeah,
it's another one-loss team that I don't think deserves to be put ahead of an undefeated team, no matter who that.
Yeah, and there's, let me see here. There's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8. 1-loss teams and then a 2-loss team in front of us, and we're 7-0. It's just we get absolutely no respect, and it's crazy. You have ADs from these schools on this committee. You have an AD from Florida, and I don't know who else. I saw the list earlier, and I don't have it anymore. But
sure,
obviously the Florida AD is on this thing, and a 6-2 Florida team is in front of us. That's crazy. That's the only thing I'm really mad about. I'm mad.
Yeah, it's frustrating
that a 6-2 team, Florida, that is really not a good team, is in front of us. Just because they're in the SEC and just because their AD is on this freaking thing. It's ridiculous.
It's just frustrating, and it that won't change in this model. There's no, obviously there's no hiding from that. It's not going to change. I wouldn't. And I don't even think it's that they're scared to put teams like UCF ahead of these big schools. I just think that there's just no respect. It's a money generated deal now. It's a business. It's a way for them to generate revenue and get these teams exposure, and all these teams that have high generating programs are going to get the exposure first. I mean, that's just the way it's going to, be. Very, very frustrating. I think, again, it's not like we're one of the first teams out, and we're fighting to be in the top 4. I don't know that that's our argument, but to have teams ahead of us, especially within the AP poll and the coaches poll, and I know those aren't polls that matter anymore, but to be at 9 in that and 12 here, and then in this poll is the only poll that we're behind some of these teams, it's just kind of outlandish. It's very evident that there's a flaw here.
Well, Washington State, Kentucky, and Florida jumped us in this poll and not in the AP poll. and not in the coaches poll, not in anything else. I don't think that these college football people that are on this committee watch football. I really don't.
It's obviously there's a flaw there. If this is the only poll that we're, 3 spots down, it's kind of shocking.
The money of all these conferences wins again. That's all that it is. That's all that it is. It's all money and it's all bias.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, really, what do we do? Danny White has done, I think, everything that he can. He just needs to be more vocal, personally. I love the guy. I mean, the guy, we are so lucky. We are so lucky at UCF to have Danny White.
Right, I agree.
I mean, I will hate the day that he gets paid and goes someplace else. It's going to happen at some point. It's going to suck.
No doubt.
I'm going to freaking cry that day. I'm telling you.
And then we've talked about it, too. I mean, as upset as all we were to see Frost go, and he's the guy. I mean, I think he's the guy that's turned not only football around, but basketball, baseball, women's basketball. I mean, the whole entire athletic department.
This is way more Danny White than it ever was Scott Frost. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah,
I mean, like you said, he's
department standpoint, no doubt about it.
Like you said, he's done it with the other sports as well, not just football.
It's huge. But as far as with football goes, he can't do a whole lot more. I mean, you put North Carolina on the schedule, you put Pitt on the schedule. FAU in the beginning of the season was a lot more sexy of a non-conference game than it probably turned out to be. But you get what, 4 non-conference games, right? And 3 of those, he did his best. I mean, 2 ACC opponents and a pretty good FAU from last year. And then you put in a South Carolina State where, I mean, you're not going to want to go 4 for 4 in out-of-conference games and beat yourself up and get injuries and stuff. You want to have at least 1 or 2 games in there that, you can play and produce and grow as a team. And he's doing all that he can scheduling-wise. They have to keep going. They have to keep pushing the needle as far as who's on the schedule.
Yeah.
And hope and pray that they can get in a conference, that they can generate revenue, that they can be with someone that has a backbone as far as the conference goes, and that they can get exposure.
Well, and that's the other thing. I was talking about it with our last guest. I talked to the insider from Temple, and we talked a lot about this, and I said, where is Mike Oresco in all this?
Yeah,
Oresco is missing. I mean, his face should be on a milk carton. Like, seriously, the dude is missing during all of this, where he could be making waves just as much as Danny White is, but he won't do it because he's in with all these ESPN guys.
Yeah,
he won't do it
and
because
he should make more waves. He should be making the most waves.
He should be making waves for number 17 Houston that got completely left out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And he has the backbone. I mean, look at all the coaches that have gone on from this conferences and are moving all these programs up. Look at all the teams that are moving the needle, and you have an undefeated team for 2 straight years. You've got a Houston that's obviously a perennial power. I mean, you've got some backbone here to stand up and use it. But he's very absent. He's nowhere to be found, like you said, and that's frustrating because all you have is I don't know if it's he doesn't want to lose us and he doesn't want us to take that next step. I don't know. You never know.
Well, probably. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. I just don't think he has any backbone whatsoever.
Sure.
And,
which is frustrating.
It probably is. He doesn't want to lose the teams that should move up. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, I expected this. I said that last week that we'd be 15 or 16, I think is what I said. Right. So I'm happy with 12, whatever. But just, Florida being ahead of us, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
And Kentucky.
And
Washington State.
Yeah.
I mean, those 3 right there, I mean, I'm totally good with Ohio State being up there.
Sure.
Oh my God! It's just
no one else but those 3 that is the frustrating, part of the whole thing. And I don't know. It's crazy that you just wonder what you have to do, to at least get a shake at it. And it hasn't just been us. It's been
What we have to do is we have to get out of this conference. Period.
Yeah, no doubt.
No question. As quickly as we can.
Yeah.
I don't care where we go, to be honest with you. We need to get out of the American. It has to be up, obviously. We don't want to go back. That'd be stupid. I'm not saying that. But just we need to get into one of those 5 conferences. And
then there's no question. I mean, if you're in the Big 12 right now and you look at you're going to play Texas, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. I mean, you're going to have every shake at it. And then there's zero question, right?
Right.
The ACC the same way in a certain extent, but it's that is our only option. That is our only play to start getting any kind of fair shake, is to get out of the American. And it's a great conference, and it's been huge for us. But obviously, it's you grow out of it just like everyone else has, just like TCU has. I mean, you name it. Over the years, teams have grown out of certain conferences. A&M grew out of the Big 12 and goes into the SEC. Same with the Mississippi States of the world and all that. And it becomes time for everybody. Utah grows out of the Mountain West. And we're in that lull right now where we either grow and move up and get a chance in another conference, or we just kind of settle and you're just that program for a long time.
Well, out of the 25, there are 2 teams that are not in a Power 5 conference, Fresno State and us.
Fresno and us, yep.
Fresno being at number 23, which they were number 20 in the regular poll. We were at number 9. We're at number 12 in the AP. So, I mean, there's obvious bias there. So
yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
and there's a 5-2 NC State in front of the 7-1 Fresno.
Right.
There's a 4-3
Iowa State, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
5-3. A 4-3 Iowa State.
Iowa State, yeah,
isn't it at 24 instead of a 7-1 Houston?
Yep. Absolutely, and that right there. I mean, a 6-2 Virginia, 4-3 Iowa State, even a 6-2 Boston College,
and a 5-3 Mississippi State, just because they're in the SEC.
And yeah, and a 6-2 Syracuse, and I mean, it goes on and on of where Houston gets snubbed out.
We could go on and on all night about this.
Yeah,
but we probably should talk. We should just take a deep breath here.
That's right.
And talk about Temple, because this is a huge game coming up on Thursday night. I think this is one of the marquee matchups of the American Conference. 2 4-0 teams in the American.
Yeah.
They, lost a couple games early, and I don't think that they probably should have. Sure. I think they're a better team than that. They're definitely a better team than that now.
Right.
What do you know about Temple?
Yeah, I mean, preliminarily, they're a much better team now than they were. I think early on you have a few stumbles. You're trying to find yourself, but now you beat, you beat a pretty good Cincinnati team. You beat a Navy team that is always tough. They beat the heck out of an East Carolina team that we, struggled, quote unquote, with. What I know about Temple is that it's never an easy game for us. They never come and play us lightly. It's another one of those conference games that somehow is somewhat of a rivalry game for us. They're always one of the tougher teams you play. They pride themselves on being tough and hard-nosed. It's kind of that Philadelphia mindset, and they always are. They're always very big up front on the defensive side of the ball. They're always very multiple on the offensive side of the ball. They have some guys outside that can make some plays, but they're big up front. I think point of attack at the line of scrimmage is big this week. We've got to slow them down in the run game and make them throw the ball. Some of those games that they had a mobile quarterback that we played them, we did our best things on defense when we stopped them at the line of scrimmage in their run game and made the quarterback make plays. Sometimes that burned us because he was stud there for a while, but he's not there anymore. But I think the same remains. We have to stop them at the line of scrimmage and make them throw the ball to beat us and put pressure on the quarterback. And I've been saying that the last few weeks. I think it's duly important this week just because they are pretty hard-nosed, and if they can run the ball, they'll get some momentum going, and we can't have that. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I just think we need to get a fast start. We haven't had one in a few weeks. We need a fast start. We needed some momentum. I think it's great that we're playing at home, just being that we've been on the road a few weeks, and we need a little momentum. We need to get, if Kenzie's back in the fold, sounds like he will be, get him back comfortable. There's no better place to do that than at home in a night game, prime time. I just think it's important that we get an early start and keep it going.
Okay, well, I mean, I may have missed something. Is there been something said about McKenzie? Do you think that he's in there this week?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a big reason that they made the decision, like we talked about, to sit him in front of the East Carolina game, was to give him that extra week to get him ready for this stretch. I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying that it's 100% that he's going to play, but I know that it was a kind of a full court press to get him healthy.
Right.
And so, I'm not sure. I guess I'm more hopeful than I am anything.
Right. Well, let's do this. What do we have to do? Just say Mackenzie Milton does not play.
Yep.
What do we have to do to beat this Temple team with and without Mackenzie Milton?
With Mackenzie, I think you have to establish a vertical passing game in order for us to open up our run game, because it seems the only way that we're going to be successful on the ground is if we're running in between the tackles. That's all we've done all year. And so, in my opinion, the way to help him out with, obviously he's not going to be as mobile as we need him to be. He's not going to be as electric, from what we understand, him being beat up. And so I just think it's important with him to develop a vertical passing game to help our run game. And with Daryl Mack, I just think that any passing game is going to be important. He showed some really electric stuff downfield when he, last game we played last week, I'll say, but it wasn't as consistent of a passer. And I think if he comes out and shows that is a weakness for him, they'll pin their ears back. And I know Temple likes to light it up. Jeff Collins shows a lot of different looks on the defensive side. He'll bring a lot of pressure to Daryl if he knows that he can't get it done through the air. And I just think he's going to have to be creative. He's going to have to use his feet a heck of a lot. I think with Daryl in the game, and Jeff Collins is one of the best at dialing up pressures and being very creative. With Daryl in the game, he's going to have to be on his R's and keys with pressure. He's going to have to know his pressure checks, and they're going to have to keep a very good speed on offense with him in order for Temple to stay out of some of those looks. I mean, that's one of the good things about a hurry-up offense, especially as fast as they go, is that it keeps defenses out of those looks. But if they have to slow down because the offense isn't moving, somewhat like we saw against East Carolina a little bit, if they have to do that, then it'll put Temple in some of those situations, especially on third and distance, that they can get into some of those blitz looks. And that won't be good on offense, at least. And then to hit on the defense again, I just think it's all up front. It's all in stopping their run and making them beat us through the air.
Okay, well, do you think that Temple's offense or their defense is their stronger point?
It's always, in my opinion, in my experience with Temple, it's always been their defense. It's always been their front four, I guess you could say, and their linebacker play. That's always been where they hang their hat on some bigger, tougher guys up there. Their secondary has sometimes in the past been a weakness of theirs. I'll pick one for the sake of answering the question. But in my experience with Temple, it's always been their defense and their front four, front seven, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
So
who on UCF, who needs to step up this week and to make a statement?
I think
offensively and defense, you can do one of each.
Yeah, offensively, I'd really like to see Marlon Williams step up and have more of a presence. I think he's a guy, you look stat line wise, he's had, one catch here, two catch there, and he's been explosive, but I think he's a guy that has so much more potential and explosion capabilities. And whether it's not always him, he needs opportunities, but I'd really like to see him be involved this week and maybe get a couple more touches, maybe get creative in getting him the ball, somewhat like they were last week with, Quadri Jones getting in and just being creative to get people the ball and get them involved. He's definitely the guy on offense that I think is a link that we're not exactly taking full advantage of. And I just think he's someone that can be explosive for us. And then I think on defense side of the ball, Titus Davis is a name that just kind of rings, and I think he needs to have a huge presence on the edge of the line of scrimmage this week. He's a guy that is kind of a heartbeat of the defense. He's a guy that can move the needle a little bit for those guys. I think it's a huge week for him to have a presence, set the line of scrimmage, be flying around, be in the backfield when in pass rush situations, and really just be a presence for us. Him and Tristan Hill, I think both are guys on the front of our defense that can really step up and do a lot more things for us. And like I said, have more of a presence. They haven't this year. And this is the game. I think that they can make a statement and really insert themselves in being kind of a dominant force up there. So Titus and Tristan on defense would be my guess.
All right, and finally, keys to the game, offensive and defensive for UCF. Yeah. What do we have to do to beat Temple?
Offensively, it's stay ahead of the chains and keep an awesome pace. And I say that because if we have to slow down, just like I mentioned earlier, if we have to slow down and we get in second and long situations, that puts Temple where they like to be in blitz packages, puts them in more, dime sets, nickel sets where they can put a pass rush guy in there. So on offense, we need to stay ahead of the chains and be in second manageable, third and short, and be fast and have a tempo. And then on defense, it's stop the run. It's just stop leaking, stop letting drives go along, stop letting offenses get comfortable back there because they can run the ball and beat us up front. And so I just think that's a huge thing this week. With Temple's going to want to control the ball. They're going to want to control the time of possession, and we can't allow that with them having a successful run game.
All right. Well, it's a huge game. This is as big as it gets as far as our schedule goes this week anyway. I mean, I feel like this is very important, especially with these rankings coming out. We need to make a statement. I hope to God Mackenzie is back and we get rolling like we have in the past. We need to really even get rolling a little bit more than that. This needs to be an offensive show. We need to take Temple to school, I think, and just make a statement in general. The fans need to make a
too. Yeah, with the rankings and all that. I mean, you get to a point as one of these smaller schools, if you will, or non-Power 5 schools. You don't have to just win; you have to win convincingly, and we haven't done that exactly so in the last couple of weeks. I think you could agree, but not just
absolutely.
them. Yeah, but our fans and showing up and filling the stadium and just having that all-around atmosphere where you're winning convincingly and your stadium's overflowing. It's a big week for us, man. Being on primetime, 7:30 against a good opponent, it is a big, big week for UCF.
Well, I just read something on the message boards that I'm extremely excited about, and it has nothing to do really with the game. It has to do with the pregame a little bit, and we're having a flyover again this week.
Yeah, I saw that.
I just saw it. It's A10s, and A10s are absolutely awesome. So
very cool.
I cannot wait for that. So
yeah, that's cool. I saw that article earlier. Actually, I got kind of excited too. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah,
you can't beat that, man, in a game.
No, that is an incredible airplane. I'm a huge aviation fan, so
cool.
When I saw that, I was like, yes. I mean, the C-130 a couple of weeks ago was pretty incredible. That guy came in lower than I've ever seen anybody come over Spectrum. So.
That's pretty neat.
All right. Well, I get excited about weird things, I guess.
I love it, man. No, that's
I'm a little hyped up tonight after this college football playoff thing came out.
Rightfully so.
I was still searching for Milton information. So
I'm with you. Rightfully so. It'll rectify itself. Like I said. Can only handle what you can control. You can only control what you can control, but some of this stuff's getting a little outlandish.
Well, Josh Heupel has been extremely cryptic about the entire thing. I mean, he's not saying anything. He's not showing any, either way.
I don't think
he's just.
Yeah, I think you said the names earlier that it's their place to move the needle, and that's Danny White and Mike Oresco. I think Heupel's doing his talking, in the win column, and it's as long as he takes care of that, I think it'll be good. But like I said earlier, we need to not just win, but win very convincingly. Yeah, this is a great week to do that in prime time.
Yeah, if the chance comes to pour it on, we need to pour it on and never let up.
Absolutely
needs to be that attacking offense that he talked about and attacking defense. Lots of turnovers, and just take Temple right out of the game.
Absolutely, that exciting team we're used to seeing. It creates some excitement, and no doubt about it.
There's all kinds of excitement. It's the space game. It's these cool new uniforms. What do you think about those? Did you see the uniforms?
Yeah, they're pretty awesome, man. Very hard to beat. I think that's pretty cool when you see them doing that kind of stuff. I mean, it's pretty cool as an alumni to see them creating excitement that way. It's very, very cool for me at least, especially. I just think that creates so much excitement with the fans, the players. I mean, it's a new school tradition too. I think, you have the old traditional schools that don't do much of that kind of stuff, but then you have a school like UCF where that can become your tradition, having a new space uniform every year, having a new, kit every year you add in the mix. So I think that's a pretty cool deal that they're doing. I love
How big of a deal was that to you as a player? You were on that first year Scott Frost team. What was that like to get all those new uniforms and as a player? I mean, does it give you a little bit extra?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it creates some excitement for the guys. I mean, it's new, it's new, it's fresh. It's that old adage, you look good, you feel good, you play good. And I think there's something to that. At the end of the day, it's not your uniforms that matter, but at the same time, I mean, you ask any kid that suits up. I mean, you put a nice uniform on with some cool helmets and change it up every week. I mean, it definitely moves the needle a little bit. And I think it's cool. It creates excitement for fans. It makes them want to come out and see everything. And it's a neat deal. I like it.
All right. It has to be good for recruiting, I would think, too. So.
Oh, yeah. More so than anything, I think.
Right.
No doubt about
I think if you're a player coming out of high school, if I was back in that position, I mean, my college, we had two uniforms. We had a home uniform and an away uniform, and that was it. But now that, Kansas has some more, uniforms and stuff and all kinds of helmets, we actually did have two helmets. So we had a white helmet and a blue helmet.
Love it.
But I always thought that it was a little exciting, wearing the white helmet versus, whatever. But if I was a kid coming out of high school right now, and honestly, if I could choose between a school that had just their traditional colors, unless it was a school that, there's a couple schools out there that like Notre Dame, Penn State, that their uniforms are just, extremely traditional. It's the same. Yep. It's, I would choose a school, I think, that, had a little bit of flash to them and did some exciting
you go on your visits and stuff too. They always have everything laid out and all the uniforms and cleats and helmets and shirts and all, everything. It's definitely a tool, man. It's part of it, and it's a huge role. And, whether call it right or wrong of what reason I pick a school, but I do think it's an aspect of it. And I love it. I think it's very cool. And it's, definitely creates excitement.
You originally picked a school with blue turf. So
That's right. No doubt. And a whole lot of uniform combinations. Yeah. It's, no doubt. It's very different.
Trust
me, I'm all about it.
Just messing with you, man.
Love it.
It's all good. All right, Nick. Thanks, man. Very cool. Much. Again, thank you for talking about the playoff thing here, and you kind of talked me down a little bit. I was about to go over the edge. So
I hear you. No doubt. No,
not that we weren't expecting it, but
that's right. Yeah, we're getting there. We're doing our part. But no, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Big week for UCF, so we're very excited.
All right, we will talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Talk to you then.
All right, so much on the line for UCF. As it turns out, first place is up for grabs when the Owls visit Orlando. A win would move UCF to 8-0 and would be the 21st straight victory for the Knights. A win would also be UCF's 12th straight home game with a win. With games against Navy and Cincinnati right around the corner, here's what you need to do before Thursday's 7:30 p.m. kickoff, a game airing on ESPN. Number one, listen to Knightline 168 as we get you ready for the 2018-19 basketball season. It's our special preview edition. We welcome former UCF men's basketball player Ben Stout to the Knightline Sports Network family as our new UCF basketball insider. Plus, your football game prep continues with the latest episode of Sons of UCF. For Trace Trylko, I'm Andrew Phegley. Thanks for listening to Knightline Extra. Go Knights and charge on.